about what the goal of our project was and kind of how it's going, what we've learned through the process, and how that connects to some values. And then that'll be for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes for you to ask questions, give warm and cool feedback, any suggestions, anything really to help us think better about it, or to help clarify kind of what we're trying to do. We are now in the second year, really what technically should be the end of the second year of our grant. Really for us, it's the beginning of the second year, because as you hear in a minute, the project really starts around the summer. Our goal with the project and the grant was to answer one key question, which is, how can we not just introduce a particular innovation into the Judaic studies in the school, but create a culture and a system by which, right, there are structures and ways that teachers have time and the ability to constantly innovate, to constantly be reflecting on what they're doing and to do it better. And so therefore, right, our values, really what we felt was a key part of accomplishing that was, we called it the Lilmod Ulamed Teacher Torah Collaboratory, which was Lilmod Ulamed, meaning that if we want teachers to teach differently, they also have to learn differently and have the opportunity to learn differently. Right, a shout out to Cheryl and Charlotte. This is definitely something, part of what inspired the grant to begin with was our experience with the Standards and Benchmark Project. And the recognition that adults have to go through, teachers have to go through the process of learning in order to be able to change how they're going to teach. The other value behind it is the value of teacher time. And the recognition that if we keep on saying, like we have been for many, many years, that, well, teachers will figure it out and they'll have the time to write curriculum, put it together, figure out how to differentiate, personalize, project-based, inquiry-based, social-emotional, mentor kids, and do that all together while they're preparing 5 different preps, it's never going to happen. And so we wanted to think about it and try to figure out a way where we can try to break that cycle by giving teachers time. And we felt that the primary way to do that was to look at the summer. So the design of the project was to bring teachers together for a 2-week period during the summer. We brought all of our Judaic faculty in the upper school together for 2 weeks during the summer to learn together and to produce something together that would then, the goal was that it would then inform the teaching and learning and the continued meetings during the year. So the theory was if we give them intensive time together during the summer focused around the particular goal, we could then use the time during the year to build off of that goal and have them continue to learn and look together. Initially, the focus was, and the idea was, let's build curriculum and coursework together during the summer so that during the year we could think about pedagogy and how it's implemented and look at student work and fine-tune our plans. And that was the initial goal last summer. So last summer, I would say the other value was really wanting to think more deeply about the text-to-meaning challenge that all the different presenters yesterday were thinking about, and thinking about how we could balance the tension between content and skills on one hand, and having students make meaning and find personal connection to what it is that they were learning. So to do that, last summer we brought in someone named Rav Ori Lifshitz from an amazing project in Israel called Lev Ladat. If you're not familiar with it, I encourage people to look it up. They have been working in Israel, and it actually now is part of the Bagriyot exams to answer these kinds of questions. Their big goal is hafnama. It's a beautiful Hebrew word, does not translate well, it means internalization, but the idea is how can we help students personally internalize the learning? And so we brought him, who is a big tremendous Talmid Chacham, he's a Rav Kibbutz, but also really thinking creatively about how to teach Gemara, and we spent a week learning together. And the idea was that we were supposed to, right, have him model a unit for us, model lesson learning for us, push us, which he very well did, how to ask different kinds of questions and do different kinds of activities. We had teachers representing a chakira, different ways of looking at Berchot Torah with Play-Doh. We had teachers writing a tefillah that they're going to say before they recite Kriyat Shema based on the Gemarot and the Sugya that we learned about Kriyat Shema. These were things that the teachers had never been asked to do before, and that they're experiencing it gave them the excitement of now going and trying it and thinking about what this could look like with students. And in that regard, it was extremely successful in mindset shifting, right? In making reflection and hafnama and meaning making part of the language of our department and part of the things overall that teachers are thinking about when they're deciding what they're doing in the classroom. Ultimately, it did not have the impact that we thought it would have during the year. And part of that was a number of different factors that we learned, and I'm not going to have time to talk about all of them, but a few. A few of them were, number one, 2 weeks is not enough time. Number two, summer is not necessarily easier for some teachers than during the year. Right? We thought summer is going to be easier because their kids are in camp and we're giving them stipends so that they can put their kids in camp if they want, and it's going to be easier. What ended up happening, our schedule was limited to day camp hours, so 9:30 to 2:30, and already people came at 9:45 from drop off that took longer, left at 2:15 to do pickup. We're going around town to pick up their kids from 3 or 4 different places, and their minds were not as focused as we thought it might be during the summer. So 2 weeks was not enough for curriculum development. We made assumptions about what knowledge teachers had already coming in. I assumed, of course, everyone has learned Masechet Bracha before, and now we can talk about how we're going to do it better. That wasn't true. That was a bad assumption. And the third and most important thing that we learned that really is pushing us to think in a different direction moving forward is that behind collaborative work for teachers, which we learn from experience is probably also behind collaborative work for students, is also personal dynamics and relationships. Certain interesting, complex dynamics between teachers and their visions of work styles and education and just how they interact with each other. When you get everyone together for a long period of time during the summer, things come out. Like anyone who's been in camp knows that when you sleep in a bunk with someone for a month, things come out in your relationships with them that don't come out in other times. And it was interesting. We kind of noticed that this was an issue, but didn't have a sense of what to do about it. And so therefore, part of our goal was to figure out, okay, there's giving more time or figuring out how to construct this a little bit differently from the pedagogy and curriculum perspective, and figuring out what is this underlying factor. So you can call it luck, you could call it hashgacha from our perspective. Got a call at the end of the summer from someone who works with Rav Dov Zinger, who is a Rosh Yeshiva in Mekor Chaim, a very creative yeshiva in Israel, saying, Rav Dov wants to come to Cleveland. And what Rav Dov taught us in the weekend that he was in Cleveland was that before you can ask teachers and students in a classroom to really engage in self-reflection and making things personal, there has to be work done around trust building and relationship building. And at the core of all of that is really self-awareness, right? And teachers' ability to be self-reflective about themselves and what they're bringing to the classroom. And that was extremely powerful, and that ultimately opened up us and led us to people like Bob Keegan, Lisa Leahy from Harvard, who are also thinking in these terms, people that we met and reached out to in High Tech High, who talked to us about the culture that they're building there and the role that teacher self-awareness plays within that. So we kind of realized that part of this curriculum work is not just about curriculum, it's also about teacher culture building, right? If we really care about collaboration and teachers working together, there's deeper work that needs to be done. So what we're doing this summer is as follows. 2 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So what we're doing this summer is trying to deal with some of those different issues, and we'll see. I don't know how it's going to go. It's a little bit of a risk, but we appreciate the JEIC giving us the ability to do this. We're separating out the 2 weeks from each other a little bit more. So in just a week and a half, our teachers are going to spend their first week together. They're foregoing their stipends this year so that we can do the learning together in Israel. And the reason why we're doing that is because the learning that we're doing together in Israel will be full-time for a week. We'll be on site with Rav Zinger in Mekor Chaim, seeing how the work that he's done really informs the school culture. So that's half a day. And the other half a day will be in partnership with Machon Herzog, working with the people that we brought in last summer and expanding to others in this Lev Ladai project, learning from them in both Tanakh and Gemara. So the goal of that week is to fortify and build further skills in both of those areas, in the self-awareness and group dynamic side and in the curriculum development side. Then the plan after that is that a small team of teachers, and this Shell and I have worked on together over the past couple of months, a small team of teachers, hopefully more than just myself, will be writing some of the units. So we're shifting away from having every teacher have to write a unit. And when the teachers come back together mid-July, so the teachers during that time, that 6-week time, are going to be learning content. So they'll learn, here are the Gemaras and Kiddushin that you're going to be teaching next year, learn the Gemaras. Here's Sefer Devarim and some Mefarshim, go learn the content. And when they come back together, they will look at a unit that we have prepared for them and learn with support from the Standards and Benchmark project, learn how to lesson plan within that, how to create their own structures and plans within those units, so that hopefully this year will come into the year in a better position with more of the curriculum prepared. Our goal is to then repeat some of that in January during finals time so that we can move further to second semester, and then hopefully this year get to the point where our Gemara and Tanakh department meetings can focus on tuning protocols like some of you experienced yesterday with Aryeh and Tikva and the Inquiry Beit Midrash, and looking at student work, and we can figure out, well, what are students really getting from this, and are we achieving our goals? We'll see. And that's really what the grant has enabled us to do, is to experience this learning process. And that was ultimately its goal. Its goal was to figure out how can we create a cycle and structures to continue to do this work. And we hope, right, that the expectation of teacher work during the summer and these different structures will be something that we'll be able to sustain. But we learned from the teachers that even if that the stipends are less important to them than feeling like the time is well used, and that it's setting themselves up to have more time during the year. When I'll just end with, I know when Rav Zinger came, he called us all in Hebrew losers. Lamed Vav Zayin, losers. He said, I see that everyone here is a loser. Everyone is driven by their luz, which in Hebrew is luach zmanim, is their timetable. And part of the goal behind all of this is to figure out how can we change the way in which teachers use and think about their time to benefit the students.
Have some time to answer questions.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
The reflective manner in which you handle what needs to be organized. And rather than push through something that was not working well, looks like you really thought what works. The second question is, how did you formulate the stipends related to what people have to do with their children, etc.?
So,
how are we able to get them to go away for a week?
So, great questions. On the first point, the point about reflectiveness, I'll just comment that from a values perspective, that is a huge value, cultural value in our school as a whole. And part of what I love about working at Fuchs Mizrachi is that the culture of the school across the school as a whole is that we're always thinking about how we can do things better. And that for sure is part of what allowed and informed our work together. In terms of stipends, it wasn't so mathematical. We didn't go reimbursement. We had a set number. We tried to think about what made sense on a weekly basis. We last summer gave teachers $600 a week, which is in no way was like full compensation for their time. But we also provided lunch for a couple of days, and that made them feel better about. I mean, some of the teachers said that actually the lunchtime was their favorite part of the day. It's just when do they have time to sit around eating lunch and schmoozing with other teachers? Right. And regarding the last question, which was right. How do we get them to go away for a week? So that was part of their idea, was that they said for us to take a week off to some extent at the end of May is easier because our kids are still in school and in daycare. Again, some of it is circumstantial. It worked for our group of teachers this year. We have a bunch of teachers that are leaving who can cover classes and still have them learning Torah for a week. It's the week of Memorial Day. There are also some trips for different grades. There's MAP testing, and seniors are done. Juniors are doing internships, which is another whole thing that we're playing with. And so it worked for us to try this. There are questions about transferability and sustainability, but I think for each school in each context, the right time to do it might change, but the idea is creating that time.
I'll also add, one concern I have, we'll see how it plays out, but I have a little bit of a concern in terms of the optics of it. Just putting my head of school hat on, but parents seeing that the teachers are going on vacation for a week to Israel, which is obviously not what they're doing, but for our parent body to understand and recognize this is an investment in the future learning of their children, it's something that I'm sort of curious to see how that plays out. So we're crafting our communication carefully, and again, the timing of it is helpful because it hopefully won't be as impactful on the students as had we just picked a random week during the year.
So maybe opening the Google Doc to teachers of our schedule, to parents of our schedule, if they want to see it. I shared it with some of my teachers, like, all right, I'm already feeling tired. Yeah.
If this works, what changes do you think you'll see this year? How are you going to know if it's working?
Great. So I think a few different things. I think on the interpersonal level, right? So much time, and this is the beginning of who's becoming my new Rebbe, Bob Keegan's book. At the beginning of his book about deliberately developmental organizations, he talks about how so much time and energy in schools is wasted on people dealing with interpersonal challenges and problems, and that could be resolved if there was more proactive work around that. And so that's one potential goal, right? In terms of teacher interactions with students, teacher interactions with each other, if teachers are more self-aware and can be more reflective, and we can increase the group dynamics and the communication that happen in the school, so we hope that will express itself in a more positive environment, a more trusting environment, better relationships and engagement as a whole. In terms of the curriculum, so what we could start to look at this year was the work that students are producing, right? And I could show you, I didn't print it out because I didn't want to make a million copies, but some of the answers that students are starting to give to reflective questions that we're asking them, right? About, we did a project, the whole Gemara department did a project on Berchos Torah, and students had to reflect on, choose the language from Gemara and Rishonim that most resonate with your experience of learning Torah, right? And some of their responses were extremely powerful when you push them to have to articulate things like that and to do it based on sources. So we hope to see more and better quality of that.
My question has to do with the dynamics of the staff. So you send your July studies teachers to Israel for a week, they get a stipend, there it is. What about the rest of the faculty?
That's a great question. I think that,
I think speaking to what you would have mentioned earlier about our school culture, which again has been, the two of us have played a role, but certainly it predates our existence in the school, setting the tone for that culture of reflection and growth. And different teachers get different opportunities. I don't think people are clamoring to leave their families for a week. We are asking a lot of them in return in terms of the work that they're doing. But we'll give general studies teachers opportunities to go visit High Tech High and to have other opportunities if they're seeking them, and we can support them. So I think when teachers feel like, more important than the compensation, when teachers feel like we're investing in them, we have faith and confidence that they can continue to grow and improve, and we're going to actually support them so that they can do that. That's what resonates with the teachers. So as long as we're providing those opportunities, even if they're different in nature, as long as we're providing that for other teachers, I think we won't have that resentment.
Right, so a lot of the general studies teachers are participating in cohort of Better Lesson, for example. With the
big questions that I had is more about, you're developing a certain dynamic. and investing a lot on the dynamic among teachers and having them together and spending a lot of time on that. And all these other opportunities are great.
So we kind of, right, you're right. So we kind of look 100%, and that we talked about because the teacher dynamic and the relationships is something that we don't want to be just like, just internal to Judaic Studies department. To some extent, the people that are going all have some form of a leadership role, whether it's in programming or department work or working with students. And so therefore, this is an experiment, right? If it's successful, and we hope that the tools that we learn are ones that we can then model for the rest of the teachers in school itself.
Was there any sort of, it sounds like you have a lot of professional development opportunities for teachers, and that's like the culture of the school. Do you have any process of, do teachers have to apply for them? Is there a way they formally share with you what they want to do? Is there an unlimited fund for those things? How do you go about selecting who and how?
So really, again, this goes back to the time thing. I wish that every teacher was knocking at my door and Avery's door, coming and saying, I did research and this is really what I want to do. This is how I want to grow. It's a separate conversation. We went through a whole process of doing supervision and evaluation around teachers setting goals for themselves. Sort of works, sort of doesn't work. But I think part of it is that teachers don't have the time to develop a plan for themselves. And part of the idea of creating actually my position in the school was, right, my job is to help connect them with resources and ideas and plans to help them push them to grow. I know that you're thinking about formative assessment. Here's something that I think might help you be able to do that. Or this department is working on this, right? This, here's a way that I think might work for you. So
and each division of the school, has its own PD budget, technically, and it's up to the principal of each division to ultimately decide, here's how we want to allocate this, and here's how we want to use it, whether it's conferences or courses or visiting other schools.
We also get, I think, about $15,000 a year from our local federation specifically dedicated to PD, and that's something that is nice in Cleveland, and it's something that we appreciate. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ben. So first of all, this is beautiful, and there's so many good things I could say about what you're doing, but I'll just point to, I'm really impressed how you've woven together all these different resources from different people you've met in the field, right?
That's what you did.
Just the different organizations, and you were able to think about how to put them into a meaningful stew for your school. It's really amazing. And my question is about this point that you made about developing a strong culture of collaboration and a caring community amongst your faculty. And I'd love to hear more about what you're thinking about doing this summer to actually make that happen and into the future. I heard you talk about going to study in certain spaces in Israel, and I know that they're going to be together in an intensive week. I wonder if you have particular building activities or types of experiences that you are hoping are going to move that agenda forward and bring back a more trusting, more caring group than you take away.
So hopefully we'll write about what we experience after we get back. But yeah, part of what we believe is that Rav Zinger and Makor Chaim has certain tools. Right? The more I read from the Harvard research and the Keegan and Leahy work, they have a lot of tools for creating different kinds of. Again, it's a different kind of protocol. Right? It's a protocol that's not about looking at student work or a unit, but it's protocols around sharing and self-reflection. Just as one quick example, the activity Rav Dov did with us when he came was asking teachers to talk about the energy that they have coming into the classroom and what saps and gives them energy. And just asking that question was extremely powerful. Extremely powerful.
Thank you.